The vast silence of space was rarely disturbed by anything significant. Yet one evening aboard Station Epsilon, the listening array orbiting Saturn, that silence broke. Tobias Grant, a technician, lounged in his chair, tapping absently at his console. The usual hum of cosmic background radiation filtered through the systems, as steady and uneventful, as always until a peculiar pattern emerged. He straightened. The rhythm in the signal was too precise, too deliberate to be natural. Tobias immediately activated the array's advanced filters. "Base command," he said, voice tinged with nervous excitement. "We've intercepted something unique." Dr. Aisha Novak's heart raced as she stared at the audiovisual translations of the anomaly. On her screen, an unfamiliar language unraveled, each syllable carrying a haunting melody that chilled her to the core. As she decoded more, the message crystallized. It was a distress call. The voices trembled with desperation, painting vivid images of a peaceful world overwhelmed by destruction. She played a snippet aloud. "Help us. They are coming. We cannot stop them." The words seemed to echo with the weight of collapsing hope. It was the Elisari, an advanced yet newly spacefaring race, facing annihilation by the Korath, a brutal militaristic empire whose expansion was marked by destruction. News of the signal spread like wildfire. Across Earth, colonies, and orbiting stations, humanity found itself at a crossroads. On the flagship UNS Vanguard, Admiral Elena Cross received the report in her private quarters. She listened to the recording in silence, her fingers laced tightly as the Elisari's cries played on a loop. Their voices, delicate yet filled with terror, etched themselves into her mind. Admiral Cross stood and stared out the wide viewport of her cabin. The stars outside seemed indifferent, cold, as if mocking the plight of Elisar Prime. A part of her, a pragmatic, tactical part, recognized the risk. Humanity had its own scars, its battles to recover from. To intervene against the Korath would be to awaken a sleeping giant. Yet ignoring such a call for help seemed unthinkable. A message arrived, summoning her to Luna for an emergency meeting of the United Earth Coalition. As the Vanguard changed course, Cross gathered her thoughts, knowing that whatever decision was made in that chamber, it would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The chamber of the United Earth Coalition stretched high and wide beneath Luna's surface, its vaulted ceiling etched with constellations that shimmered like real stars. Yet the chamber felt stifling, heavy with the weight of history being written. Delegates from Earth, its orbital colonies, and the scattered settlements on Mars were present, their faces reflecting the enormity of the decision before them. Admiral Elena Cross stood in the central dais, her military uniform pristine, the insignia on her chest gleaming under the pale light. Around her, holograms of Elisar Prime and Korath fleet formations rotated slowly, casting shifting shadows on the polished floor. Above it all, the haunting voice of the Elisari distress call echoed softly, looping in the background. The words, desperate and melodic, chilled even the most hardened representatives. "Help us. They are coming." The chamber buzzed with tension as delegates voiced their opinions. Some were practical, cautious, almost cold. Others brimmed with indignation and moral outrage. Their arguments overlapped, creating a cacophony that the chamber's acoustic dampeners struggled to suppress. A delegate from the European Union leaned forward, his face stern and his tone clipped. "The Korath are not a foe to take lightly. Their empire spans dozens of systems. We've been lucky to avoid their attention so far. If we intervene, we risk bringing their wrath upon Earth." His words caused a ripple of agreement, but a delegate from Africa stood in defiance. Her voice was steady, unwavering. "We call ourselves the United Earth Coalition. United in what? If our unity stops at our borders, it's meaningless. The Elisari face annihilation. Are we so afraid that we will ignore their cries?" The room erupted again, voices raised in heated debate. Admiral Cross watched silently, her hands clasped behind her back, her eyes scanning the faces of the delegates. She could see the fear, the doubt, but also the flickers of hope. These people were not just politicians. They were the embodiment of humanity's aspirations and its flaws. "Enough." The voice of the presiding chairwoman cut through the noise, commanding attention. "Admiral Cross, you've seen the Elisari's plight firsthand. What is your assessment?" Cross stepped forward, her boots echoing in the sudden silence. She spoke not with passion but with measured authority. "Delegates, humanity has faced countless crises throughout its history: wars, pandemics, natural disasters. Each time, we've overcome them not by retreating into ourselves, but by reaching out, by finding strength in cooperation." She gestured toward the holographic display of Elisar Prime, its once vibrant surface now marred by plumes of fire and destruction. The Elisari are not asking for a savior. They are asking for a chance to survive, to protect their people, to hold on to hope. We have the means to give them that chance. To turn away now would be to abandon everything we claim to stand for. Cross's words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Slowly, delegates began to cast their votes. Some hesitated, their gazes flickering between the hologram and the admiral. Others voted with quiet determination. When the final tally appeared on the central display, the decision was clear. By a majority vote, humanity would answer the Elisari's call. The United Earth Fleet would mobilize to defend Elisar Prime, knowing full well the risks involved. As the session adjourned, Cross lingered in the emptying chamber. Her thoughts conflicted. She had convinced them, yes, but at what cost? The Karath were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before. The battles ahead would test not only the fleet's strength, but also its very soul. Back aboard the Vanguard, Cross addressed her crew. Her voice carried through every corridor, every deck. We are embarking on a mission that will define us not as individuals, not even as nations, but as a species. Our actions will show the galaxy who we are. This is not about power or conquest. This is about hope. As the Vanguard prepared to lead the fleet, the stars beyond Luna's horizon seemed brighter, as if the universe itself was watching. For better or worse, humanity had taken its first step onto the galactic stage. The order had been given. Humanity would answer the Elisari's call, and the United Earth Fleet would be the hand of salvation. Across the solar system, shipyards and orbital stations buzzed with activity as the might of Earth's interstellar fleet began to awaken. It wasn't just a mobilization of ships, it was a summoning of humanity's collective will. Admiral Elena Cross stood on the observation deck of the UNS Vanguard, her flagship. From her vantage point, she watched as smaller vessels darted around the colossal battleship, delivering supplies and personnel. The Vanguard was a marvel of engineering, a testament to the decades of innovation that had propelled humanity into the stars. Its sleek, reinforced hull gleamed under the artificial light of the dockyard, and its advanced weapon systems stood ready for the trials ahead. Status report, Cross said, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility. Lieutenant Commander Arjun Singh, her tactical officer, joined her on the deck. The fleet is assembling as planned. The Resolute and her carriers are at full capacity, and the strikecraft squadrons are prepped. We've integrated the latest enhancements from the Elisari schematics, still experimental, but promising. Cross nodded. And the crews? Determined, Singh replied. He hesitated for a moment before adding, but some are nervous. It's one thing to train for battle. It's another to face an enemy like the Korath. Cross turned to him, her expression softening. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Arjun. It's acting despite it. Make sure they know that. Across the system, the UNS Resolute, Earth's largest carrier, loomed like a city among the stars. Inside, hangars buzzed with activity as engineers and pilots prepared for the mission. Among them was Cadet Ryan Cho, a young pilot fresh out of the academy. His sleek strikecraft, nicknamed Starlance, was one of hundreds being loaded with advanced weaponry and shielding. First real mission, huh? Said his wingmate, an older pilot named Darnell. He clapped Ryan on the back, grinning. Don't worry. Just stick to the formation, and you'll be fine. Ryan managed a nervous smile. Easy for you to say. You've been in more simulations than I've had hot meals. Simulations are one thing, Darnell admitted. But real combat? That's when you find out what you're made of. While the fleet prepared, Earth's scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to integrate Elisari technology into their systems. Aboard the research station Orion's Eye, Dr. Sophie Laurent led a team of human and Elisari researchers. Holographic blueprints filled the air around them as they analyzed the Elisari's unique energy manipulation systems. This, Sophie said, pointing to a shimmering projection, is how we level the playing field. Their energy systems are unlike anything we've ever seen. If we can adapt them, we'll have a weapon the Korath won't expect. Corvin, the leader of the Elisari delegation, watched the process with quiet admiration. His people, delicate and graceful, moved among the humans with an air of awe. Though their voices were soft, their resolve was growing. You are remarkable, Corvin said to Sophie, his luminous eyes reflecting the holographic light. Your people possess both strength and ingenuity. Together, we may yet prevail. The Spectre, one of Earth's stealth frigates, stood apart from the main fleet. Sleek and painted in a matte black coating that absorbed light, the Spectre was nearly invisible against the void of space. Its captain, Joanna Hale, inspected her ship with a critical eye. Cloaking systems are online, she reported to her crew. Our job is to do what we do best: slip in, hit hard, and disappear before they even know we're there. The fleet's departure was a moment of unity unlike any humanity had seen before. Across Earth, her orbital colonies, and Mars, millions watched as the ships powered up their engines. Families gathered in city squares, their faces lit by the glow of distant thrusters. Children pointed excitedly at the sky, their awe undimmed by the dangers awaiting the fleet. On the Vanguard, Cross addressed her crew over the shipwide comms. Today, we embark on a mission that will test us in ways we cannot yet imagine. But we do not fight for glory or conquest. We fight because we must, because doing nothing is not who we are. Her words were met with cheers, but as the Vanguard led the fleet into hyperspace, the enormity of their task loomed large. They were humanity's best, but would it be enough to stand against the Korath? The United Earth Fleet emerged from hyperspace into Elisari territory, their ships gliding into a region of space unlike any they'd traversed before. Nebulas shimmered in hues of violet and amber, casting an otherworldly glow over the dark expanse. But the beauty of the stars was marred by the remnants of destruction. Drifting amidst the cosmic splendor were the remains of shattered Elisari vessels, elegant crescent-shaped ships, now reduced to twisted debris. On the bridge of the UNS Vanguard, Admiral Elena Cross stood at the helm, her sharp eyes scanning the tactical display. The air was tense, almost electric. Around her, the crew worked in quiet urgency, their consoles glowing as data streams updated constantly. "Scanning the planet now," reported Commander Luisa Ortega, her voice calm but weighted. The display flickered, bringing into focus Elisar Prime. What had once been a vibrant world teeming with life was now a picture of devastation. Entire cities burned as blackened scars stretched across the verdant surface. Swarms of Korath warships loomed in orbit, blockading the planet like vultures circling their prey. Cross felt her jaw tighten. "Send a wideband hail," she ordered. "Let the Elisari know we're here." The message, carefully translated into the melodic language of the Elisari, was transmitted. Moments passed, each one stretching longer than the last. Finally, a response crackled through the comms. The voice that emerged was soft, trembling, yet laced with an undercurrent of defiance. "This is Corvin, speaker of the Elisari," the voice said, faint but resolute. "You have come. We dared not hope." A holographic image of Corvin materialized on the bridge, his appearance ethereal. His translucent skin glowed faintly, and his large, expressive eyes reflected both relief and exhaustion. Around him, faint hints of Elisari architecture could be seen: delicate structures, intricate and symmetrical, now scarred with damage. Admiral Cross stepped forward. "Speaker Corvin, this is Admiral Elena Cross of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call. We're here to help." Her voice was steady, projecting the authority of humanity's greatest fleet. Corvin's image wavered slightly, his exhaustion evident. "You cannot imagine what this means to us," he said, his words trembling. "Our cities are in ruin. Our defenses have fallen. They come not to conquer, but to destroy. We have no way to stop them." "You're not alone anymore," Cross replied firmly. "We'll protect your people and drive the Korath back. But we need to understand what we're up against. Tell us everything." Corvin's gaze shifted to the tactical display, where the image of Elisar Prime burned like an open wound. "They arrived without warning," he explained. "Their ships unstoppable. Our technology is no match. We are builders, dreamers ill-equipped for war. They target our cultural centers, our homes. They seek to extinguish everything we are." The Elisari delegation aboard the Vanguard entered the bridge at that moment. Among them were scientists, diplomats, and civilians, each one bearing the same delicate, almost fragile appearance. They looked upon the human crew with a mixture of awe and trepidation, their luminous forms contrasting with the stark, industrial surroundings. One of them, a younger Elisari with a soft, lilting voice, approached Cross. "You are mighty," she said, her gaze sweeping across the bustling bridge. "More than we could have imagined. But, will it be enough?" Cross met her gaze with calm resolve. "We don't back down from a fight. And we don't abandon those who need us." At that moment, alarms blared across the ship. Commander Ortega's hands flew across her console. "Admiral, we've got incoming. Korath ships are moving to intercept frigates and a cruiser. They've detected us." The tension on the bridge shot to a breaking point. "Battle stations," Cross commanded, her voice cutting through the noise. Around her, the crew snapped into action. Displays shifted to tactical layouts, and the ship hummed with energy as systems powered up. As the Vanguard and its escorts moved to engage, Cross turned back to Corvin. "Speaker, your people must evacuate the most vulnerable areas. We'll buy you time, But you need to be ready to move. Corvin hesitated, as though struggling to accept that help had truly arrived. Then he nodded, determination returning to his weary features. We will do what we can. But please save our children. The void around LSR Prime erupted into chaos as the Korath fleet moved into attack formation. Their warships were brutal and angular, bristling with glowing red weaponry that pulsed like veins of molten lava. They descended on the United Earth fleet like wolves, their maneuvers precise despite the disruption caused by the initial human presence. On board the UNS Vanguard, alarms blared, and the dim lighting of the bridge shifted to a deep red. Tactical displays flickered with real-time data, enemy formations, weapon trajectories, and the positions of friendly ships. Every second counted. Enemy ships are closing in fast, reported Lieutenant Commander Arjun Singh. His fingers darted across his console, feeding targeting data to the fleet. 3 heavy cruisers and a swarm of fighters are heading right for us. Admiral Elena Cross nodded sharply. Her voice rang out with calm authority. Deploy interceptors. Have the Resolute launch its squadrons to cover the flanks. Focus fire on the lead cruiser. I want their momentum broken. The fleet responded with precision. Sleek Earth strike craft swarmed out of the Resolute's hangars, their engines igniting the void with trails of blue flame. Fighters like Cadet Ryan Cho's Starlance raced to meet the oncoming Korath attack, their weapon systems hot and ready. Within moments, the serene silence of space turned into a maelstrom of explosions and streaking plasma fire. Ryan's hands were steady as he gripped the controls of his fighter, his focus narrowing to the swarm of enemy craft ahead. This is Cho, he called over the comms. Squadron forming up on me. Let's show these Korath what we're made of. His squadron weaved through the chaos, dodging enemy fire and counterattacking with surgical precision. Around them, human and Elisari ships fought side by side. Elisari vessels, though delicate in design, projected shimmering energy shields that deflected enemy fire. Their presence bolstered the fleet's defenses, though their inexperience in battle was clear. On the Vanguard, Commander Luisa Ortega shouted above the noise of tactical updates. Admiral, the Korath are deploying a second wave. More ships are inbound from the dark side of the planet. Cross's expression hardened. They're trying to encircle us, redirect the Spectre and its stealth team to flank their reinforcements. Keep the Resolute covered. We can't afford to lose our strikecraft support. Far from the main battle, the stealth frigate Spectre lived up to its name. Cloaked in darkness, it maneuvered silently behind enemy lines, its crew working with precision under Captain Joanna Hale's watchful eye. Target their support ships, she ordered. Let's cut their legs out from under them. The Spectre unleashed a barrage of plasma torpedoes that tore through a Korath destroyer's engines, sending the massive ship into an uncontrolled spin. The explosion lit up the void, briefly illuminating the grim determination on Hale's face. But the battle was far from won. The Korath dreadnought, an immense vessel bristling with heavy weaponry, loomed at the center of their formation. Its main cannon, glowing ominously, began to charge, aimed directly at LSR Prime. Admiral, the dreadnought is powering up for planetary bombardment. Ortega's voice was sharp with urgency. If they fire the surface. I know, Cross interrupted, her voice calm but edged with steel. Her mind raced. The dreadnought was heavily shielded, and breaking through its defenses would require a coordinated effort. Redirect all capital ships to focus on the dreadnought, she ordered. We can't let them fire. And get me a calm line to the Elisari delegation. Moments later, Corvin's holographic form flickered onto the bridge. His luminous eyes were wide with fear as he saw the tactical display. Admiral, what is happening? They're preparing to destroy your planet, Cross said bluntly. We need your help. Corvin hesitated, his fragile hands clasping tightly together. We are not warriors. Then be defenders, Cross urged. Your energy manipulation technology, can it amplify our firepower? We need to hit that dreadnought with everything we have. Corvin glanced at his advisors, their melodic voices murmuring in rapid deliberation. Finally, he turned back to Cross, his expression resolute. We will try. As the Elisari ships moved to aid the fleet, the combined forces rallied for one final push. Energy surged through the Elisari vessels, their shields converting into brilliant beams of light that converged on the dreadnought. The human fleet followed suit, their plasma cannons and railguns pounding relentlessly against the enemy's defenses. On board the dreadnought, the Korath warlord Karak sneered at the resistance. Fools, he growled. Their defiance is meaningless. But Karak's confidence wavered as the coordinated assault breached the dreadnought's shielding. The Vanguard, leading the charge, delivered a crippling blow to the ship's main cannon, just as it prepared to fire. The explosion rippled through the dreadnought, disabling its weapon systems. The fleet's victory was costly. Debris from both sides littered the void, and several human ships had fallen. Among the casualties was the Spectre, which had sacrificed itself to disable the dreadnought's secondary systems. Captain Hale's final transmission had been simple. For Elisar. As the remaining Koroth ships retreated, the battlefield fell silent. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Admiral Cross exhaled slowly, the weight of the battle pressing heavily on her shoulders. "We held the line," she said quietly. But her gaze lingered on the display of Elisar Prime, its surface scarred yet enduring. But there's still so much to do. The aftermath of the Battle of Elisar Prime left the United Earth Fleet in a somber state. Victory had come at an immense cost. The wreckage of destroyed ships, both human and Elisari, drifted through the void, haunting reminders of the lives lost. Yet the Koroth were far from defeated. Their retreat had been a tactical withdrawal, a precursor to their next assault. On board the UNS Vanguard, Admiral Elena Cross convened her senior officers in the war room. The dim chamber was illuminated by holographic projections of enemy positions. A red beacon flashed ominously, marking the location of a heavily fortified Koroth command station. "They've regrouped here," said Lieutenant Commander Arjun Singh, pointing to the red beacon. "It's their forward operating base. If we don't act, their next attack will wipe out what's left of Elisar Prime." The room fell silent as the weight of his words settled over the officers. Humanity had dealt the Koroth a blow, but it was far from fatal. The enemy still had the advantage in numbers and firepower. "We can't fight them head-on," Cross said, her tone measured. "But we don't need to. If we can take out this station, we'll cripple their ability to coordinate. It's our only chance." Dr. Sophie Lawrence's holographic image flickered to life, connecting from the Orion Psi research station. "Admiral," she said, "we've analyzed the Koroth technology from the wreckage. Their command network relies on a central hub within that station. If we can infiltrate and disable it, their fleet will be vulnerable." "But," Cross raised an eyebrow. "But," Sophie hesitated, "the mission would be incredibly dangerous. The hub is located deep within enemy territory, surrounded by defenses. Even a stealth team would have slim odds of success." The room grew tense. The officers exchanged glances, knowing what the mission would require. Captain Joanna Hale was gone. Her sacrifice aboard the Spectre was still fresh in their minds. Yet, someone would have to take her place. "I'll do it," Singh said, his voice firm. All eyes turned to him, but he held their gazes steadily. "The team needs someone who knows their tactics. And I've been in worse situations before." Cross's expression softened slightly, though her steel-gray eyes remained resolute. "Arjun, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," he interrupted gently. "We all knew what we were signing up for when we joined this fight. The plan was set. Singh would lead a small team aboard a modified Elisari vessel outfitted with advanced cloaking technology. Their mission: infiltrate the Koroth station, plant EMP charges, and disable the command hub. Meanwhile, the fleet would launch a diversionary assault, drawing enemy forces away from the station. Corvin, the Elisari leader, approached Singh before the mission. "Your bravery humbles us," Corvin said, his voice trembling slightly. "You risk everything for a people you barely know." Singh smiled faintly. "We're not so different. You do the same for us." As the infiltration team prepared to depart, the rest of the fleet rallied for the diversion. Aboard the UNS Resolute, strikecraft squadrons lined up for deployment. Cadet Ryan Cho tightened the straps of his flight suit, his expression grim. "This one's for all the people we couldn't save," he muttered to himself. The diversionary fleet engaged first, erupting into fierce combat with the Koroth forces near Elisar Prime. Plasma beams and railgun rounds streaked through the darkness, illuminating the void with flashes of destruction. The Vanguard spearheaded the assault, drawing the brunt of enemy fire. Meanwhile, Singh and his team approached the Koroth station, under the cover of their cloaking systems. The massive structure loomed ahead, a fortress of metal and light. Every detail of the plan had to be executed perfectly. There was no margin for error. Inside the station, the Koroth were on high alert. Patrols moved in tightly coordinated patterns, their brutal efficiency a stark reminder of the enemy's power. Singh's team navigated the labyrinthine corridors, planting EMP charges at critical nodes. The tension was palpable, every shadow and sound a potential threat. As the final charge was armed, alarms blared. The Koroth had discovered the intruders. "Time to go," Singh shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The team raced back to their ship as Koroth soldiers closed in. Blaster fire erupted around them, the deafening noise echoing through the station's corridors. Singh made it to the ship's cockpit, panting as the hatch sealed behind him. "Activate the cloaking system and get us out of here," he ordered. The pilot obeyed, and the ship slipped into the void just as the EMP charges detonated. The explosion was a cascading burst of blue energy, rippling through the station like a shockwave. Systems shorted out, and the command hub collapsed in a shower of sparks and debris. The Karath fleet, now cut off from centralized coordination, faltered. But the escape was not without cost. As the cloaked ship raced back toward the fleet, Karath fighters detected faint energy signatures and gave chase. Singh, knowing the danger to his team, made a final decision. "Get to the fleet," he told his pilot. "I'll hold them off." "Sir, you can't," the pilot began. But Singh was already out of his seat, heading for the secondary turret. The last transmission from the ship came moments later. For humanity, for Elisar, the United Earth fleet regrouped in orbit around Elisar Prime, their ships battered but unbroken. The Karath forces, weakened by the destruction of their command station, had retreated deeper into their territory. But no one aboard the fleet believed they were finished. All evidence pointed to a final, devastating assault, and it was coming soon. Admiral Elena Cross stood at the tactical display in the war room, her eyes scanning the flickering red markers that represented the enemy fleet. The Karath were amassing their remaining forces for one decisive attack. Intelligence from reconnaissance drones suggested the presence of not one, but two Dreadnought-class ships, each equipped with enough firepower to obliterate Elisar Prime in a matter of hours. "They're betting everything on this," Cross said, her voice steady but grim. Around the table, her officers sat in tense silence. "If we don't stop them here, nothing will." Dr. Sophie Lawrence's hologram flickered to life, patched in from the Orion's eye. "Admiral," she began, "we've analyzed the energy patterns from the Karath dreadnoughts. Their shielding systems are strong, but not invincible. If we can synchronize Elisari technology with our weapons systems, we might have a chance." Corvin, the Elisari leader, stood at the edge of the table, his luminous form trembling with uncertainty. "Your bravery has brought us this far," he said, his voice soft. "But I fear this battle will demand more than courage. It will demand sacrifice." Cross nodded. "It always does. But we've come too far to turn back now." The fleet prepared for what would be the largest and most critical battle of their campaign. Elisari engineers worked tirelessly alongside human technicians, integrating their energy amplification technology into the fleet's main weapon systems. Though untested in battle, the enhancements promised to give humanity the edge it desperately needed. On the ground, the Elisari people rallied in ways they never had before. Civilians organized evacuation efforts, moving vulnerable populations to underground shelters. Volunteers joined the resistance, using their unique understanding of energy manipulation to sabotage Karath ground forces. For a species that had once known only peace, the transformation was profound. As the Karath fleet emerged from the shadow of a distant moon, the scale of their forces became clear. Dreadnoughts loomed at the center of the formation, surrounded by countless smaller ships. Their arrival darkened the skies above Elisar Prime, casting an ominous shadow over the beleaguered world. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Commander Luisa Ortega called out, "Admiral, the Karath are in position. They'll be in range of the planet in 15 minutes. Cross turned to the comms officer. "Open a fleet-wide channel." Her voice carried through every ship, every corridor, every cockpit. "This is Admiral Elena Cross. Today we fight not just for Elisar Prime, but for what it represents: hope, unity, and the strength to stand against those who would tear us down. We may be outnumbered, but we are not outmatched. We are humanity, and we don't give up." Her words echoed through the fleet, igniting a collective resolve. Fighters launched from the Resolute in perfect formation, their engines flaring like beacons against the darkness. Capital ships powered up their enhanced weapon systems, the blue energy of Elisari technology pulsing through their hulls. The battle began with a ferocity that shook the void. The Karath dreadnoughts unleashed devastating volleys of plasma fire, their beams carving through space with lethal precision. The Vanguard absorbed the first wave of attacks, its shields flaring under the strain. "Redirect power to the forward shields," Ortega shouted. Meanwhile, Cadet Ryan Cho led his squadron into a swarm of Karath fighters. The chaos of dogfights erupted around him, but his focus never wavered. "Stay on me," he called to his wingmates. "We've got to keep their fighters off the cruisers." On the surface of Elisar Prime, resistance fighters launched a desperate counteroffensive against Karath ground forces, attempting to deploy planetary bombardment relays. The Elisari, inspired by humanity's courage, used their advanced energy manipulation to disable enemy vehicles and fortifications. For the first time, they were not just victims, they were fighters. As the battle raged, Dr. Lawrence's enhanced weapons proved their worth. Human ships, with Elisari energy amplifiers integrated into their systems, broke through Karath's shields with devastating precision. One of the dreadnoughts faltered, its defenses failing under the concentrated fire of the fleet. "Target their main reactor," Cross ordered. The Vanguard's railguns fired in unison, their rounds piercing the dreadnought's hull. The massive ship erupted in a fiery explosion, its debris scattering across the battlefield. But the victory was short-lived. The second dreadnought retaliated, unleashing a shockwave that disabled several Earth vessels. On the bridge of the Resolute, alarms blared as the ship struggled to maintain stability. "We can't take another hit like that," shouted one of the officers. Cross knew they needed a decisive move. Turning to Corvin, she asked, "Your energy technology, can it be focused into a single massive strike?" Corvin hesitated, his large eyes shimmering. "It is possible, but it would require all of our remaining energy cores. If we fail, we will be defenseless." Cross placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze firm. "We won't fail. Trust us." The Elisari ships converged, their glowing shields dimming as they funneled their energy into the Vanguard's main cannon. The weapon, now pulsing with combined human and Elisari power, locked onto the second dreadnought. "Fire," Cross commanded. The beam of energy that erupted from the Vanguard was blinding, a brilliant cascade of blue and white that tore through the dreadnought's core. The enemy ship imploded, its destruction sending shockwaves through the Karath fleet. Disoriented and leaderless, the remaining Karath ships began to retreat. Cheers erupted across the fleet. For the first time, victory felt real. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Cross allowed herself a rare moment of relief. But as she looked at the tactical display, showing the battered remains of both fleets, she knew the cost of this. The skies above Elisar Prime were silent once more. The echoes of battle had faded, leaving a fragile peace in their wake. The Karath were gone, their forces scattered and broken, retreating to the far edges of the galaxy. For the first time in weeks, the Elisari could look to the heavens without fear. Aboard the UNS Vanguard, the mood was somber but hopeful. The fleet had endured, though the cost had been high. Wreckage from countless ships littered the battlefield, silent monuments to the courage and sacrifice of those who had fought and fallen. The crew worked tirelessly to assist the Elisari in their recovery, their resolve undiminished despite their exhaustion. Admiral Elena Cross stood on the observation deck, gazing at Elisar Prime below. From this vantage point, the planet looked almost untouched, a jewel of blue and green suspended in the void. But she knew the scars of war ran deep, both on the surface and in the hearts of its people. A quiet knock broke her reverie. "Admiral," said Commander Luisa Ortega as she entered, her voice soft. "The Elisari delegation is ready." Cross nodded and straightened her uniform. "Let's not keep them waiting." In the main conference chamber of the Vanguard, representatives from both civilizations gathered. The Elisari delegation, led by Corvin, stood on one side, their luminous forms glowing faintly in the subdued light. On the other side were humanity's finest officers, engineers and scientists who had risked everything to protect this fragile species. Corvin stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We are builders, not warriors," he began. "For centuries, we believed that peace would protect us, that the vastness of the stars would shield us from harm. But we were wrong. The Karath sought to destroy not just our people, but our very existence. And in our darkest moment, when hope seemed lost, you came." He paused, his large, expressive eyes meeting Cross's. "You are unlike any species we have ever known. You fight not for conquest but for compassion. You have shown us that strength lies not in domination but in unity. For this, we owe you more than words can express." Cross inclined her head slightly, her expression measured but warm. "The Elisari remind us of who we were," she said. "Once humanity stood at the edge of extinction, saved only by our ability to come together. Now we stand with you, not as saviors but as allies. Your survival is a victory for all of us." The room was silent for a moment, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone present. Then, with a solemn gesture, Corvin extended a crystalline tablet, a symbol of Elisari authority. "Let this be the beginning of a new era," he said. "An alliance built on trust, cooperation, and the shared dream of a better future." Cross accepted the tablet, her hands steady. "Together," she said, the word carrying across the room. And with that, the alliance was forged. In the days that followed, the fleet worked hand in hand with the Elisari to rebuild. Human engineers and medics descended to the planet's surface, aiding in the restoration of cities and infrastructure. Elisari children, their eyes wide with curiosity, gathered around Earth's soldiers and technicians, marveling at their tools and machines. The collaboration brought a flicker of hope to a planet still reeling from devastation. Cadet Ryan Cho, now a seasoned pilot, found himself stationed on the surface, overseeing relief efforts. He watched as an Elisari artist painted a mural on a damaged building, their delicate hands weaving light and color into shapes that seemed to glow with life. It was a scene of beauty amidst the ruin, a testament to the resilience of the Elisari spirit. "Feels different, doesn't it?" said Darnell, his wingmate who stood beside him. "Winning a battle is one thing, but this feels like we're actually making a difference." Ryan nodded. "We didn't just save a planet. We showed them that they don't have to face the dark alone." The Elisari people, once fragile and defeated, began to find strength within themselves. They learned from humanity's example, channeling their grief into determination. Together, the two species prepared for a future where neither would have to stand alone. As the fleet prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Cross addressed her crew one final time. Her voice carried through every corridor and deck, reaching the ears of every man and woman who had fought for Elisar Prime. "We came to this world as strangers," she said, "but we leave as something far greater. The Elisari have shown us that even in the face of annihilation, hope can endure. And we have shown them that no matter how vast the void, they are not alone." Her words were met with quiet applause, a somber yet hopeful acknowledgement of all they had achieved. As the Vanguard and the remaining ships of the fleet broke orbit, they left behind a legacy that would endure for generations. Above Elisar Prime, two flags flew side by side, one of Earth, the other of the Elisari. Together, they marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for two civilizations, but for the galaxy itself. In unity there was strength, and in strength there was hope.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe the channel for more videos like this.